All right, ladies and gentlemen, this just came out. The DOJ won't bring charges against officers in Freddie Gray's case. Are we shocked? No. In America, white cops are rarely prosecuted for causing injury or death to black suspects. So all charges, ladies and gentlemen, have been dropped. So these cops can go out there and act like they've done nothing and continue on their killing spree. So let's go ahead and listen to this video.
Back here at home tonight and to that decision in Baltimore. Prosecutors dropping all remaining charges in the death of Freddie Gray. Gray's death from a severed spine followed a ride in a police van, sparking riots. 6 officers were charged. 4 have been tried, none of them convicted, and tonight Baltimore is now on edge amid new questions about why the prosecution failed to make its case. ABC's David Curley from Baltimore tonight.
Riots after the death of Freddie Gray, but tonight, no one will be held criminally responsible. That stunning development coming as this police officer entered court to prepare for trial, when prosecutors announced they are dropping all charges against the remaining 3 officers. 3 other cases ending in acquittals on charges of not belting Gray into a police wagon during his transport. His neck was broken. The prosecutor remained defiant while still dropping the charges.
We do not believe that Freddie Gray killed himself. We stand by the medical examiner's determination that Freddie Gray's death was a homicide.
Still, there is a divide here, as the prosecutor charged some members of the police department with a biased and questionable investigation.
The comments made today about our officers by Ms. Mosby were outrageous and uncalled for and simply not true.
The Baltimore Police Department has made changes, and more may be coming. The Justice Department is investigating this city's police department, a probe that started after Gray's death in custody. David
Curley in Baltimore.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, are we surprised? No, we've seen this way too many times in this country. And, you can just look at that image of him screaming as they're dragging him to that damn van that they threw him in. It's just disgusting. And you can clearly see he couldn't even walk. They claim his injury was caused inside the van, and you see those cops are clearly dragging him and holding him up. This is disgusting. But remember, Jeff Sessions said that, the DOJ would not be investigating these cases anymore, and he meant it. So not that anything happened under Obama, because these cops were still getting away with it under Obama as well. So it really doesn't matter. But see, these police unions, these cops, they want to always position themselves where they're never guilty of anything. They want this apology, they want that apology, and they are not guilty. And the problem is from the top on down. And that's how it's always been when it comes down to the legal system in the U.S. The U.S. Department of Justice won't bring federal charges against 6 Baltimore police officers involved in the arrest and in custody death of Freddie Gray, a young black man whose death touched off weeks of protest and unrest in the city. And from what I understand, there's pretty much an uproar going on in Baltimore now. The officers were charged by state prosecutors after Gray's neck was broken in the back of a police transport wagon. But you clearly see he couldn't even walk. Okay, that injury happened long before he got placed in the back of that wagon. In April of 2015, the 25-year-old was handcuffed and shackled at the time, but he was unrestrained by a seatbelt. 3 officers were acquitted at trial, and the Baltimore State's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, later dropped the remaining state charges. So it really doesn't matter if you have a black state's attorney. They still can't win these cases when it comes down to a cop. You can clearly see this. The Gray family attorney, Billy Murphy, said the Justice Department informed him on Tuesday that no federal charges would be filed. The decision means none of the officers will be held criminally responsible for Gray's death. Well, he certainly didn't break his own spine and neck. 5 officers face internal disciplinary hearings scheduled to begin October 30th. Those officers are Lieutenant Brian Rice, Sergeant Alicia White, and Officer Caesar Goodson, Edward Nero, and Garrett Miller. It's nothing, believe me, if the federal charges were dropped, this hearing is not going to add up to a hill of beans. None of these officers are going to be held accountable. It doesn't matter at this point. The federal charges are really the biggest thing that could have been placed on them, but we know we don't live in the land of justice. So the 6th officer, William Porter, was not charged administratively. Gray's death triggered the firing of then Police Commissioner Anthony Bates. It also prompted the Justice Department to open an investigation into allegations of discriminatory policing practices and unlawful arrests. Last year, the Justice Department released a report detailing widespread patterns of abuse and misconduct within the Baltimore Police Department. Well, that's countrywide. The federal agency entered into a court enforceable agreement in January to reform the troubled police department. On Tuesday, attorneys representing the officers expressed relief that their clients will not be held criminally responsible for Gray's death. This is the outcome all the time. So, I'm not surprised. These cases were never criminal and should never have been charged, such as said Rice's attorney, Michael Belsky. Joe Murtha, who represents Porter, said he was relieved the department determined that there wasn't a basis to move forward with the civil rights action, adding, "It's a good decision." Baltimore's homicide rate began to soar after Gray's death in 2015, a year when the city saw 344 killings, which broke a 40-year record for homicides. Homicides and overdoses are now threatening new records in the city. There have been 245 homicides so far this year, compared to 214 at this time last year. On Tuesday, local officials and experts gathered at the Maryland Senate to address Baltimore's increasing violence. Senator Nathaniel McFadden, a Baltimore Democrat, called on his colleagues to work together, saying the whole state has a problem when violence hit such high rates in Maryland's largest city. It is everywhere. Help us. Help the engine that runs the state. Address the problem, because this is not just Baltimore City. This is the state of Maryland, McFadden said. Governor Larry Hogan, a Republican, announced plans last month for legislation to tighten sentencing for violent criminals to help quell the crime surge. It's amazing. They can pass all kinds of legislation against the citizens, but they never pass not one piece of legislation against these violent ass cops. I'm just saying. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. And if you can, make a donation to the Hurricane Fund for Irma victims down in Florida, I would appreciate it. Peace, family.